two, one, one, two, one, two, one, one, two.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to the podcast. This is Artists Under Construction, the podcast where we help you become bigger, faster, and stronger as an artist. I am Neon Tom.
And I am Moves Johnson. Yes, guys, thank you very much for watching. This is the podcast where we pick apart your passion, your brain, all of your craft and your love and the things that you do. We take it apart, we put it back together, hopefully a little bit better than when we found it. Today we are talking to Justin McHugh, who is a very active member of Toronto's music scene, and he has been for a very long time. He is the drummer for the bands Junestone and Astrosurf. Astrosurf. My bad, Justin.
It's all good.
It's all good. But yeah,
Aquasurf is just normal surfing, man.
yeah, I was gonna say that's just Astrosurfing is better. Yeah. But Justin, why don't you tell the people at home a little bit about what you do and how you got into it and how you got your start for those listeners who don't know you.
Yeah, so like my uncle's a drummer, and he got me a drum kit when I was pretty young. Don't remember how old to be exact. And as soon as I got the drums, I started playing, practicing, and I don't know, I was pretty lucky growing up in like Bolton with you guys, because there was a pretty prominent music scene there during like middle school and high school. So instantly I was playing in a bunch of bands, and then that's what I ended up wanting to do post-secondary. So I went to Humber College.
Mm-hmm.
Got my bachelor's of music, met a lot of people through there, and have been playing with in a lot of bands via people through Humber College, and then other schools and just other people in general. And I've been making my living off of gigs, like anything from weddings to indie rock gigs to bar gigs to busking, and then private lessons of like teaching drums. And then some other things, like doing like some random live sound gigs, or like producing
like
stuff.
As an engineer, you mean some of the other random gigs?
Yeah.
Really?
Just basically everything music related.
Yeah, that's super cool. And that's like the story of a lot of musicians that, at least the ones that I end up talking to, like you get into the music industry, or you get into this type of work, and you want to, a lot of the time, play your own music, or you want to play... we're going to change the world with our sound, man. We're going to find the new sound, and people we're going to blow their minds. They've never heard it before. And you very quickly realize that that's not the only direction that you can take as a musician. Like you learn about engineering, you learn about audio production, or these other little elements of it. And you sort of expand, and there are so many different niches that you can fall into as a musician, or so many different areas of this industry that you can explore and make money out of, or be successful out of. I think also that nobody wants to hear somebody's original music a lot of the time. Nobody really wants to, I wrote a song, why should you care, But people have heard Wonderwall on the radio a million times. They know the words to this song. When you play that, they respond to it. They want to hear songs that they know. And so you don't really have, when you start out, you're like, no, I'm not going to play covers, or I don't want to play that radio mainstream stuff. And then you realize that that's really where the market is. That's where people are gravitating to it, right? So it's...
Yeah, if you want to make a living, you can't, it's hard to just do your own thing, right?
Yeah.
And to be honest, I was never really, I just wanted to play. I was never really about doing my own music. That was just never a thing when I was younger. I just wanted to play with people, so I just did whatever came, basically.
Mm-hmm.
And now I'm kind of starting to want to do my own thing a little more, but
so are you doing songwriting and stuff for the bands you're in? Are you performing your own original songs, or?
Yeah, basically for any band that I play in that allows me to, I write music for. at least try to, or help them arrange and just try and be a part of the creative process as much as possible. Except if it's like a cover band, of course, then you
just
can't really do much about that.
Yeah, like you were talking about wedding gigs and stuff, and that's like there's a totally different vibe to like I got a wedding gig next Saturday, actually next weekend, and like it's a totally different. We played a show, me and my band, 2 or 3 weeks ago, and it was original material. We played the odd cover, but like we were at a bar and we were able to play our own songs. And then same band is playing next week, and it's like a wedding reception. And, you want to hear Hey There Delilah. They want to hear Wonderwall. They want to hear Robbie Williams songs. They want to, like, it's a totally different attitude and a totally different persona that you have to have on stage, a different professionalism, right? Like,
Oh, yeah, totally.
Totally
Yeah.
opposite sides of the same coin. Yeah. So,
But I think your attitude of just wanting to play is really good, because I think I started at songwriting, and as I got better at learning guitar, I got more hungry to just play guitar in any facet I could. And then when I go out, even if I can just play covers with people, it makes me so much better as a musician, and it just hones my craft so much more. Just to be hungry to do that and not focus on extra things.
Yeah, and it makes, like, when you start doing your own thing down the line, or like just in general, it makes it way easier for you to relate to the musicians who are playing for you too, right?
Yeah, you've gathered like so much experience, and you can apply that now to your new adventure.
and like if you've all been like, okay, you sat down and you learned the guitar for whatever song you want to cover that you didn't write. You know what that whole experience is of having to learn a new song that you like from scratch, and so like if you write a song, there's a different vibe. Like how it goes in your head. You can make edits to it. You're the songwriter. It doesn't really change. But when you give it to the band to learn, like we've all three of us played in a band together, right? And so like if I had written a song and I brought it to you guys, in my head I know what all the right parts are. But like I have to explain that now to you guys, and for you it's exactly the same process as learning a cover song. Like there's no difference, because you now have to just learn this song. If anything, it's harder because you've never heard the song before. There's no recorded version of it yet. That's kind of where you guys come in, right? So you have to, like, the more you can understand what each person's role is, I think it really allows you to then better assign roles or use people's strengths and stuff. Yeah.
And like translate and not have to just use like descriptive, like emotive words to describe something. You can actually use like musical terms.
I was working with, I don't want to say any names, but I was working with somebody the other day, and they're in a lot of different bands in this city, and because session work is, we keep coming back to it, like you can't just focus on your own thing. You really have to spread yourself far with whatever gig you can get and playing whatever type of music for whatever situation. And so this person is a musician like that, and she works with a lot of other bands. And she was talking about the last band practice she was in, where like the drummer is a super jazz educated drummer and uses this language to speak to people. Like when she talks about a tempo increasing or a volume, she'll use words like crescendo or largo, or like she says, we need to do this phrase 4 times, right? Or like, how many bars is this? And she means something very specific when she says that. And the guy who is the songwriter and the guy who is like the band leader has no musical education, and he's all self-taught. So when he says, oh, we do it 4 times, she's just said like, oh, how many bars are here? And he said 4. But it's like it's a 16-bar phrase, and what he means is we do that 16-bar phrase 4 times, and it's such a and like they have these fights and this miscommunication, and my friend is saying like every band practice sort of ends with somebody about to have an aneurysm, and so like it's really important to find that common ground and relatability to your yeah.
Usually what I do in that case is I just like, I learn how they say things, and I just go with the way they say it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, it's pretty easy to figure out, oh, they meant that phrase was 1 bar, when really it's actually 4 bars. So then I just go with that.
Exactly. Like you just talk to them on their level, and then there's your ego doesn't make a fight happen, really, is what it is.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
it just makes things way easier.
Yeah, I was playing with a band the other day, and I was trying to get them to play syncopated with me, and they weren't quite understanding what I was saying. It was like we were just a bunch of like amateur musicians in a garage, and when I was like playing the offbeat, and they were like, "Oh, okay," and then they got it. So sometimes,
But when
need
you
to
said
change
syncopated,
terminology.
they were like, "What the fuck are you talking about?"
Yeah, they were like, "What?"
That's just a sound I've never heard before. That's
Yeah.
yeah, no, it's really, I think communication is key. I think in any field communication is key, but like music is its own language already, you know, like there are already separate terms for things like loud and fast and stuff. And so like some people know those terms and speak that language, and some people know like a variation on those terms, or they know the thing that their guitar teacher will always say, or that they've learned to do in their environment. And so there's all these different dialects of like how to speak music, and it's really, you have to focus on just finding one and communicating properly within the group. So
Yeah, and I think it's really based off of like your own interest too, and how far you want to go into learning music. Like I teach a lot, right? Like drums and stuff. So I just kind of push myself to always be learning new ways of describing the same thing, because you need to be able to do that as a teacher, right?
yeah,
So I can describe drum things or just music things, I feel really, really well. But if I was like an artist, like a singer-songwriter type who doesn't teach at all, and I'm not required to be able to do that, then I'm obviously not going to be as good at doing that, right?
yeah, you haven't
Which is
practiced
fine.
that skill. That's not.
Yeah, exactly.
It's
So it's
no, I know exactly what you mean. I have a lot of my students lately are like they're kids, right? Like 5-year-old kids, and so there's only so much that you can communicate with a 5-year-old anyway, right? Like even if you're speaking the same sort of general language, there's only so much that you can say before a 5-year-old goes, "No, I can't absorb this right now," or like that's too convoluted, right? But then like a lot of the 5-year-olds, they don't speak English as their first language. Some of them, they don't even speak German as their first language. Like some of them, it's like they're like, I learned Russian from day one, and like I kind of know German and I kind of know English, but like I don't really know either of those languages. And you have to find this like, not only this common ground to just talk about music, like, oh, we're gonna get louder here, or I want you to hold down this note on this fret or whatever, if they're learning ukulele or something. But like you also have to just find a common language that everybody speaks. Like when the kid asks to go to the bathroom, they can only say it in Russian, and like I don't speak Russian, you know what I mean? And it's a really communication is key. It really just comes down to that. You find your way, like to get your point across.
I think that's probably
that's pretty interesting.
a pretty amazing way to stress test your abilities of communication with young children that don't speak the same language.
Dude, like I didn't speak German when I first came here. I learned slowly over, like I've been here for 3 years now, so like my German has definitely gotten better. But when I first came here, I didn't speak word one, and I jumped into teaching, and some of these kids, they're 5 years old. They've maybe heard English on the TV once or twice, but like they don't know what I'm saying. And those were really hard lessons. And I actually, about a month ago, I had one student, and we were able to do the lesson for the first time only in German. And it was such a night and day. Like every time at the end of the lesson, he was a little bit like, okay, I guess we had fun. Like, you know, like he was a little bit disappointed even at the end of it. He was learning, and he wanted to learn the guitar and the ukulele and stuff. We sort of alternate between them, but like he wasn't like into it. He wasn't excited. He wasn't motivated to see me next week type thing. And we did this lesson all in German like a month ago.
Nice.
And that was the most excited I've seen. Like his mom came home, and he's like, look what we've been learning. Like look at what, like let me show you. And Ian, remember how we talked about this? And it was the first time he'd ever had this like extroverted personality about it. And I think it was just like we finally clicked on that barrier. Like we can talk now on a common ground.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Yeah, I think as a teacher, it's kind of like your job to help motivate. And I think it's once you can communicate clearly, then it's
Communicate
definitely a lot
clearly.
easier. Yeah, communicate. You know that.
Yeah, totally.
I just like that. That's the word that you stumbled on. That's.
Yeah, I know.
But yes, but like even when you come down to communicating with, whether it's students or whether it's other band members or anybody, it's really like the amount of times I've sent emails for gigs, and then you're like, okay, what do you have? Like when I say the word backline, like what kind of backline does this gig?
Yeah, true.
Yeah, and the person on the other end of the email is like, again, I've never heard that word before, so they're like, oh yeah, we do have a line drawn out in the back room, like somewhere. No, that's not
Yeah.
what I'm like. Do you have a guitar
I-
amp? Like that's.
I got a good story for that.
Oh, go for it, please.
Yeah, tell us, please.
So I was helping this guy do sound for I forget what the event was. It was some religious thing, and it was at a banquet hall, right? Just like your typical banquet hall. I don't know if they're the same in Germany, but usually what they do is they have speakers way up in the ceiling, right? And if you're going to use them for live sound, it's probably the worst thing you could ever use, because it's they're in all four corners.
Oh,
And
just
B,
point it in
like,
the center.
yeah, it's just going to feed back like crazy, right? And then also they just sound terrible every time. But the lead guy, like the lead sound guy, he's never done a gig in a banquet hall before. So when he got the list from the banquet hall, he's like, oh yeah, they got a PA. So we show up there expecting to do live sound for a band, and he's expecting this PA system in the banquet hall to be good enough
Yeah.
for this event. And we get there and the guy's like freaking out. He's like, dude, there's no way we're going to be able to hear the vocals. This isn't going to work. Like, I don't know what's going to happen. I'm like, didn't you know that this is what banquet halls are like?
Mhm.
Dude,
And he had no clue. It was really funny.
and this
Yeah.
it just comes down to communication. Like somebody said a word, somebody else went, yes, we have that. But both they were
Yeah.
talking about two different things, but they used the same word to describe these two different things. And then like no, that's not. We need you. Like you need to know what I mean, and you need to be able to see in your mind's eye what I see in my mind's eye. So that that's a really it's difficult to do, man. It's a difficult thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Did you guys have to do an emergency rental of a PA, or did you just figure?
The DJ ended up having a PA in his car.
Oh,
Like he had
there you
a Hummer, and he had like this huge PA. And
I just keep
it
one
was
of these in the
pretty
back just in case.
yeah,
Cue the music. The DJ
was set,
saved my
man.
life.
The DJ should have just done all of it, really.
That's amazing.
That's awesome.
I forget what I was going to say. I had something to. You were asking if they have banquet halls in Germany, and we call them beer halls here. So it's just like a giant tent.
So
with
is
like,
every banquet hall there just a beer hall? Like where
not
you have
every
your
like they
weddings and
have
stuff?
like wedding receptions and stuff.
Yeah.
Like exactly. Like I know what you're asking about because we can communicate and use the same language. I know what you're talking about, but they definitely like it's a more traditional thing. You'd like. The style of the hall or the structure of the building, the architecture and stuff, and so like it's very common where you get booked for a gig and it's like it's an indoor gig. There's going to be 300, 400 people in here, and you're literally just on a stage that is surrounded 360 degrees by people, and like you're just in a giant room with people. Drink like they just sit at picnic tables
pretty
and
cool.
face you while they drink on all sides. It's kind of cool, but
Holy.
it's also really like you try to put a monitor on that stage and you're like, well,
Yeah,
but then
it's
there's a
not gonna
monitor
work.
behind me as well, which they're
Exactly.
facing each other and so like it's like the sound is not ideal, and everybody's drunk, so they don't freak out when it doesn't
Yeah.
sound the way they want, but like it's not the same as like the shows I'm used to playing in a bar where like here's the stage, there's a wall behind me, the audience is here, like sound goes this way, I stand here and face you. Like at a banquet hall or a beer tent here, it's not the same.
Yeah, like how do you get good
yeah.
sound behind you? Like you can't like just point a PA backwards and forwards. And
That's the thing.
Yeah,
You have to
true.
consistently change where behind you is.
Yeah.
So like you're moving and you're facing the crowd, and sometimes you're over here. Hey, how you doing? Thanks for coming. And sometimes you're here, and sometimes you're here. And it's really. So like sometimes like you have a really good mix in this monitor here, but then this
Yeah.
monitor over, you turn around to face the people behind you and you're like, oh, now I can't hear my voice over the PA, and which causes you to talk differently, which causes everybody else in the beer hall is like, whoa, why do you sound like this right now? And like it's just it's surreal. You kind of have to be your own mix engineer while on stage and stuff too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I wonder how that would go with if you're using like in-ears. I feel like that would be really the only way.
That's in-ears are they're a lifesaver, man. Yeah. So, but they're expensive and
Yeah.
No, it's such a pain to set up too.
yeah.
And, wireless components aren't like the most reliable things in the world. They like to run out of battery. They like to lose reception.
Or just like if you have 6 people in the band and they've all got in-ear monitors and wireless cables and stuff, like then somebody's cell phone rings and everybody fucking and
Yeah, true.
there's just so many extra steps involved, and I like to think of myself as a purist when it comes to stuff like this. I like to think that like I'm very much of the old school mentality of like, no, here's me, here's my guitar. I'm loud enough just singing and playing my guitar as it is. If we need an amp, we'll address that, but that's about as far as I take it.
Yeah. That's a whole other thing too, right? Like I find like, especially like I find this problem mainly with just like strictly artists, like artists who don't like gig themselves,
Like performance artists, you mean, or
yeah, like they just do their own thing. Is that like sound checks take forever for them, and it's like, dude, like, the quicker we do this and get going, the more likely people will be engaged, right? So I'm all about just like, okay, as long as it sounds half decent, like, what's this?
yeah, right. Like you can hear enough that you can. Okay, I have my cues. I can follow this now. It doesn't have to sound the way it does in my studio at home every time you step on the stage.
Yeah, exactly.
It won't. It's really difficult to make that happen. So you have to be able to adapt, I think. But or like one, I know another person. They do very similar to what you do. They're sort of a drummer for whoever will take them. But then they've also got their own studio work, and they do a lot of work with like other independent artists in the area, and they tend to get a lot of these singer-songwriters or indie musicians. Like it's a lot of the same genre of people that come through, and they're really talented. And this person's really good at what they do. I don't want to discredit this person at all, but like you always end up encountering an artist who comes in and they don't know this lingo, or they don't know. Like, why doesn't it sound like it does when I do this at my house? Or like, oh, this song it sounds really good, but you know what a nice layer in this recording would be is maybe some piano or something. And so you pull up, like I have a little MIDI piano right here, and I have enough samples and packs, like I can make it sound like a real piano. I've got the tools to do that. But an artist comes in and all they see is an electronic piano, and they're like, no, I want to go to like this person's house, and we're going to stereo mic and open back piano and have them play this. And you're like, okay, this is going to cost 3 more days, however much more money. Like, and like I can genuinely, like if I played you my samples and I played you this thing, you wouldn't be able to hear the difference. You'll say to them something like, oh, it sounds a lot warmer here. Or that's very bright, or that's very dark. These are common words you hear in the studio, and like a lot of these independent artists think, oh yeah, it is warmer, and they have no idea what you're talking about, and there's no common communication ground. And then that ends up costing more money when you're in the studio. It ends up like, now I have to take an extra half an hour just to show you what I mean when I say bright, and that's just like know your lines. Know what you're doing if you want to participate in this industry at the level of other professionals, or like just at a full-time level. You have to really realize the standards that have been set, like the what your peers are doing, or what the other people in this industry have all agreed is, this is how we're going to proceed. This is what we mean when we say these things.
Yeah.
It's
I think sorry, I'm losing my voice.
No worries.
Damn it, I love Justin's deep, sexy voice. Please have more water.
Yeah, don't lose that voice, man.
I think what it comes down to, and it's just like, just being open to always be learning. I would say,
Yeah.
more so than anything else.
Well, it's like what you
And not let your ego get in the way. Yeah.
It's like what you said, where you find the way that you find the language that they're comfortable using. You know what they mean when they say this thing, and so you start using the same expressions when you talk to them, because you know that they're going to click like they've got their own dialect or their own language. And I think that's what my friend tends to do. Is he's really good at identifying what the client means to say or what they're actually trying to get at, and so he gives them that, and he works with them in that way. But it's still a process of figuring out. You know, once you work with somebody for 10 or 20 songs, you're like, no, I know what we're doing here. I know the process. But the first time, you're like, what do you like when we say bright or wooden or dark? Like, do you mean the same thing as I do? Are we sure that we're on the same page here? And so.
Yeah, it's true. It's like learning another language for like real quick.
On the fly. Yeah. But it's a fun thing too, though. It's always, like you said, if you want to be learning, it's always a very there's always opportunity to learn if you're open to it. Yeah. So new experiences.
I remember like Danilo Perez was telling a story. He's a piano player. He plays for Wayne Shorter. He said the first few times he was playing with Wayne Shorter, he kept saying, you got to make those chords less muddy. I forget the exact thing that he said, but he ended up figuring out what he meant by muddy was whenever I played like a flat 9 voicing or something. That's what he didn't like.
Oh, interesting.
So
just like specifically that low note, that one low tone.
Exactly. Yeah. So he's like, once I figured that out, it was like really easy to know what he didn't want.
Tom Waits.
Because like if you said muddy to me, I would assume that maybe you're trying to like hit a chord and you're accidentally, adding one note that's not supposed to be there, and it's kind of muddying the sound.
Yeah, or like you're
has...
just strumming. Like sometimes your pickups on the guitar are just set in a way that the low tones are just resonant, and I
would consider that to be a muddy sound.
Yeah, exactly. That's. Mm-hmm. But again, the three of us have worked together on multiple albums, so I think we have also over time developed a common language. So like when one of us says something like that to each other, we have I think a better at least a context for what the other person means. Mm-hmm. But if it's your first time playing with somebody, or you're just doing it for this one gig, like that's really like then you're on the fly, then you have to figure it out. I've definitely had like one-off gigs where you play drums for somebody or you play guitar for somebody, and they have their own way of communicating with the band, and you just have to, like, I'm only here for 2 or 3 hours, but I got to learn your language for the course of that 2 or 3 hours. And
yeah, exactly.
So Tom Waits is real. I was going to say this. Tom Waits is very, very famous for, he just says things like, play it more like a sad clown who didn't get to shave today. And he just says stuff like that, and the band's like, all right, I got to figure out what the hell that means. Like, does that mean slower? Yeah, right? Like, I want it to sound like when corn falls down the stairs. Like, what are you on? No. Like, I tried that once with a band when I got here, and again, like when the people are already not native English speakers, it's hard enough.
Oh, God,
so I'm just throwing out random words at them. They're like, no, like Largo. We all know Largo. Like that's,
you say it, dude.
It's like there's that spoof movie, Walk Hard, where it's supposed to be kind of like the Johnny Cash movie.
Yeah,
but then
Dewey Cox,
he's in the
Walk
studio. He's in the studio and he says, I need that velvet pancake sound. And I love saying that in the studio. Like for me,
that is a good descriptive word.
It's just, to me, it's just a little bit softer, but I like using just a funny term like that. Just I need that velvet pancake.
I like it.
Me too.
It's a good movie. Everybody goes on about Tenacious D and the Pick of Destiny as like the rock and roll movie that Nah, Dewey Cox, Walk Hard is one of my that. Yeah, like every band I've ever been in, movie. Somebody is in that movie. Do you know, like just.
Yep.
He said Abbey Road. We have 45 didgeridoos on the floor, and there was part of me that was just like, yeah, I could see that happening. I definitely worked with a couple of people where that would end up being what.
I know it's supposed to be a spoof movie and like really extreme comedy, but I'm kind of like, yeah, I can see that in my life. Yeah,
I've worked with enough people that. Yeah, I can see sessions ending up this way.
That's a possibility, yeah.
We used to have in the band practices the didgeridoo, and Tom would only blow it when it was the didgeridoo. Yeah.
Oh yeah, that was
That's
fun.
A bad idea. Like.
Yep.
But yeah, it's all about communication. See, you blow the horn, and we still know what you mean. It means fuck off now. But that's yeah.
Exactly.
But yeah, it's I think communication in any field is key. Like even if you're a painter, you like okay, we can all sort of agree on what green means, right? Like or blue. But there's still like, do you mean like this shade of blue, like my wall? Do you mean like a sky blue? Do you mean like the specific hue of the blue is different than just saying the color blue or like I'm sure there are terms where like I don't know enough about painting to really be making this comparison, but I've started
right.
talking.
I got your back. Don't worry.
Yeah,
man.
this is your department, but like
yeah, it's all good.
I started
Sure,
talking.
yeah.
I kind of got to finish now. So like, but it's you smudge something, and I don't even know if smudge is the right word, but like you move some paint around with your thumb or some charcoal around with your thumb to give it a more natural sort of tone on the canvas. And if I was going to tell somebody to do that, I might use the word smudge, but I'd still show you what I meant. Do you know what I mean? I'd still go through the whole motion or technique. If you just tell somebody to paint you something that is blue, green, and red, you can say that to 15 different people and get 15 different paintings back, And so,
Yeah, totally.
yeah, the music is the same. Anything is the same. Dance is the same. Oh, be more active with your movements. That could be anything, Like it doesn't mean graceful. You didn't specifically say that. It's, yeah.
And that's kind of the point of this podcast, right? I mean, we're artists under construction, and all art has this sort of these similarities between them, between painting and audio and all the other forms.
And
Even
they've all got their own
dance,
like unique
it's all-
dialects of
Yeah.
like there are things within that field that you talk about that they're going to come up all the time, but like between two artists from this region or two artists from this school of thought or whatever, like there's always just this little expression that's different between them. I always used to say when Jesse was in the band, I would always tell him just play it with more balls. And we'd grown up together. Like he knew what I meant. Like he knew I just meant like heavier, like not faster,
more
not
force, a little
louder,
more
just
gusto.
just aggressively. But I tried that here, and I said play it with more balls, right? And the drummer just got louder. He didn't do anything different. He just made it louder,
True,
and
yeah.
it was like, oh, okay, no, it's not just a universal term, Like you have to really iron out these things. So, but Justin, we drift away from you a lot.
Yeah.
You're our special guest, and
I was going to say we're getting close to the end of our time, and before we go, I want to get some tips. And
time
tricks
is a
and stuff
construct,
from Mr.
man.
Justin. Oh, that's true. That's true. But
God,
what I want to ask, I think specifically some tips and tricks about things you can do at home, because we've talked with some other people about stuff, and more people are trying to improve their career from their home space, and if they can do lessons or if they can drum from their house or whatever, or if they can record from home. I was just wondering if you have any tips and tricks for people out there, Mr. Justin, on
look, are you in a home
what you
studio
can do
right
from
now?
home.
Yeah, I'm in a basement room. I got like drums over there,
Cool.
keyboard. Like I record drums.
I think I
down
see a
here.
piano there on the right. No.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Got a little. Got a couple synths and stuff. Got a guitar. Got a bunch of random.
But do you
crap.
do
Nothing,
if you do
like,
if you have to
super
do
high-end.
session work for people? Do you just do it out of then this basement setup that you've got, or?
Yeah, for the most part, unless they like I've done. Like anytime anyone sends something to me and wants me to record something, I record it here. And if they want like a better space, then that's usually a different conversation.
Right. Yeah, because it's up to the artist at that point what they're comfortable doing or how much they're able to really
Exactly.
give to a project. So, but okay, fair enough. But you like when we're talking about doing stuff from home, do you think people, because you've been at this for God, how long have you been in the music industry?
I'm 28 now, so 10 years, I'd say. Yeah.
Justin, I've never felt older than when you told me you were 28. For like again, for people who don't really know, like Tom and Justin and I have known each other for quite some time. I have known Justin since before he was 20, and it just to know that you're 28, I'm okay. So that means I got about a year left, and then I'm dead. Like that's great. But you've been doing this for a long time. Do you Like you obviously had to build up your studio and stuff like that, right? Like you didn't get all of this right
Yeah,
away.
totally.
So like, what would you suggest to somebody who's starting with like an empty room and just doesn't have access to all of this gear? Like, what do you think is the most critical? Like, where do you start before you expand?
Yeah.
Yeah, so like how I started is honestly it was just I started with like a SM58, just like the microphones that Tom and Ian are using right now, and I got a free interface from my friend Jake, and so I just started with a mic and an interface.
When you say interface,
then,
you mean
like-
just like a soundboard, like a piece of outboard hardware.
Yeah, exactly, like a the thing that you use to plug your microphone into,
Right.
like a preamp sort of, and that goes into your computer, so your computer knows, like, can get the audio signal.
Right.
There are USB microphones, but typically those aren't like industry standard in anyway. So I'd recommend getting just like some sort of interface, whatever quality really, as long as it works with your computer. Because when you're starting out, it doesn't matter. Like for example, I got a free one, right, and that thing was a piece of crap, but like I learned a lot from it.
Yeah.
And then I just took that, I just tried a bunch of different ways of using that one microphone on my drum kit, and until I found ways that I liked. And then I got really into post-processing, like putting on like free plugins, like compressors, just things that manipulate the sound to figure out like what I liked. And I slowly built myself up from there, because I find that if I started with like a lot of things, I would have been so like overwhelmed right away. But by limiting myself to just the one microphone, I would know what else I needed fairly quickly.
Like what you're lacking. This
So-
mic can do this, but now I need something that fills in over here.
Yeah, totally. And the first thing was bass drum. Like I needed a kick mic.
Right.
100%. I still don't have a kick mic, funny enough, but I have everything else but a
It was
kick
the
mic.
first thing I knew I
use
needed, and yeah.
Yeah, like I don't have like an official kick mic, you know?
Yeah.
I got like I got a sub kick,
Okay.
and
yeah.
I use like a Tom mic as my kick mic, which is pretty jokes.
What, like one of the
I've been
rack
meaning
ones
to
that you
buy
clip
one.
on to the toms?
Yeah, totally.
Oh,
yeah.
okay. Honestly, I really want to see that one. We're gonna have a different call where you just show me that, because now I'm curious.
It's it doesn't sound that great, but like,
yeah, I believe you.
but with the sub, you know, you can make it sound decent. So like what I've been doing, like, so yeah, I didn't get a kick mic, so that's kind of not good. Doesn't go with the whole thing I've been talking about here. But I did get other mics.
This is
the main reason for that is because of money. It's like the mics are expensive.
Yeah.
And I just got mics that were on sale.
Yeah, and if
And
you can
I
do
just-
like the same thing with like one piece of equipment, you can really like increase the practicality of your studio space. Like I
Yeah.
only have like 2 mics, and I've found ways to use them creatively to do everything I need.
there's
Yeah.
I mean, like the greatest way to inspire creativity is to limit yourself, right? Like the less you have, then the more you'll have to do with what's available to you. Like you just need
Exactly.
to
Yeah,
find
for sure.
diversity with it.
I'm sure using that tom mic as your kick probably taught you more about post processing and how you can, make it into a kick sound.
Exactly. Yeah.
So yeah, it made you a stronger artist in that sense.
Exactly. Yeah, and that's what I do now. I like, I just post process things a lot and make it sound like what it should.
Yeah,
and I
that's
haven't
a
had any
skill.
complaints yet.
For sure.
And I'm
This is what I was going to
Didn't
ask.
mean
Like,
to
do
get
the
a kick.
clients ever say, like, "Oh, what's up with your kick sound" or whatever?
I haven't gotten that yet, but I'm surprised I haven't, to be honest.
But like again, if you're doing a lot of
But,
post processing, that's like Tom just said, you save it, right? Like you can save this recording. You can make this kick drum come up to standard with the rest of the kit, and
Yeah.
So it's
Like I use it for my own stuff, and I don't have any issues with it. But I am going to get one, like 100%. Like I know it's going to sound. It's just going to be easier if I get one.
yeah no
and yeah, like with with everything being at home currently in Toronto, and it's only been like that for a year, I never really had that much of a demand for like my own self-home recording stuff. And if I did, it was mainly just for demos. It wasn't for anything serious. And with like COVID and the whole situation, it's turned into more like my drums that I record at home being the final drums. But it was good in a sense because everyone was that I know, because I'm still fairly young, everyone was starting from the beginning for the most part, with like doing records from home.
Right. Yeah.
So their standards weren't like super high.
This is what I've found as well with like a lot of the musicians that that you see in Berlin. They were performance musicians, and a lot of them were playing either their own songs, or maybe they were doing wedding or corporate gigs or stuff like that. But they were primarily in the realm of live performance. And suddenly, when we all had to be inside, a lot of these people were like, well, I kind of know about studio engineering, and I kind of know a little bit about this, that, and the other. And so there's this whole wave of people that were making this transition from working on stage to working out of their home studio, but they didn't really understand. Like, they weren't studio engineers. They weren't people who were trained in that. It's not even necessarily like what they wanted to do. They were just making the best of a situation. And so you get a lot of this stuff where, oh, okay, those drums sound good enough. Like, I'm happy that my recording doesn't sound like I did it in my basement. You know what I mean? Sorry, that sounded a little bit like a shot at you. I didn't mean it to be that.
No.
But like,
Hey, no, don't knock on basements, man.
I mean, this is my drums. I record like with a trigger pad, but it's the same thing. Like, when you have the right samples and you have the right equipment to bring that up, you're talking about using a kick sub and a tom mic for your bass drum. But like, all of this post-production sort of eliminates those weirder sounds, and a lot of people will shy away from like, oh, it's not organic, or it's not a real drum set, or that's not how you're supposed to do it. Every time you tell somebody that you're going to do some vocals or go track your vocals at home, like 9 times out of 10, they're like, oh, I'll do it in the bathroom because the bathroom is like a perfect isolation. But no, please don't do it in the bathroom. Please don't do it in this.
Sound is going to bounce everywhere. Don't do
like
that.
The most reflective surface that you could possibly find. Yeah, let's just put a mic in there and yell at it. Like that, nothing bad could possibly happen. But it's like this was in a movie once, and so that's what everybody thinks is good. And they don't actually listen to what it is. They just assume that they've done this one thing, and so they don't have to pay any more attention to it. And you get a lot of that same bias with post-production, or with adding too many effects, or it's not real, it's not natural. But like, you really, if your ear knows what it's hearing, and if your ear knows that, like, oh, there's a resonant frequency there, or there's a little bit of an artifact on the track, or like if you can actually hear those things, and you do have that sort of a palate, all you're doing is removing that stain, like, oh, there's a resonant frequency, so I'm going to trigger my kick drum, or I'm going to EQ my kick drum, or I'm going to do whatever I need to do to that sound to remove that troublesome tone, or that stain on the track. And that's all it comes down to, is you're just polishing something and making it sound better. But a lot of people who don't...
Yeah, and like sometimes I use samples too, so like that's...
Dude, sample triggering is... You can even do sample triggering like with a live drum set. You don't need a digital MIDI kit or anything like that. You can... Yeah, exactly. Yeah, like it's really... If it's that troublesome, or if it's that annoying, you can really just come and fix it. Like we're in 2021... You have the ability to, like, this would have cost you $500,000 in a recording studio in the 90s, but like, you can literally get away with this in your bedroom now and make it top quality if you know what you're listening for, and if you take the time to train that part of your, like, your ears or your mentality. Like, you can, it's like I said, it's all about getting out of that mindset of when you're 15 and you're like, this is how we do it, and this is the way things go, and this is what's right, and this is what's wrong. I didn't listen to rap music for the first 25 years of my life because it wasn't real music. And then suddenly you're like, oh no, there's a whole art form that I'm neglecting because I'm ignorant, because I'm actively avoiding it, and there's no justification for that. Like, if you're not open-minded, then you're not going to have more experience,
Yeah. And I think one thing too is like a lot of artists that I work for, like everyone's pretty experimental with what they're doing. So like if I got asked by like someone who's more pop oriented, I would know right away I gotta step up my game as far as like what my drums sound like.
What they're expecting.
Yeah, meaning, meaning like I need it to be more, less experimental and more like radio, just clean drum sound.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And which that's not really what I have at the moment, because that's what no one wants from me right now, which is good because that's also what I really like is kind of experimental stuff. But I've done sessions for people who need like that, like radio ready pop sound, and usually we just go into a studio because they know that if they want to get even everything down to their vocals, the piano, like anything like that, they know that they need to invest the money in a high class facility in order to get that. And I would love to have the money to be able to get myself set up to the point where I could track drums like that here, but that's a pretty big investment.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, it's like you said, you've been building this up for a decade now, longer, and it's just like piece by piece you expand your studio. But at the end of the day, you've really like you're still just adding. It's like a Lego castle, right? You add one more block, one more block, one more block.
Yeah,
but
exactly.
they're like to go and just build a studio from scratch. Even if you take some of your gear with you, it's such an undertaking. And like half of the stuff that I've got, because I've also got my home studio set up, and that's where I am right now. But like half of the stuff that I use here was I'd either brought it from Canada because I've been doing stuff with you guys for decades as well, or like I got it here and I'd work the odd gig. This Yeti mic, I helped my friend move into a new flat, and the old person who used to live there left the Yeti mic. And and he was like, do you want this? Like, I'm not going to use it. Like, I hear this might be a decent enough microphone. I'm like, yeah, honestly, like I will happily take that as payment for helping you carry a couch upstairs. But like at that point, like you've expanded your studio by that one more Lego piece, that one extra brick. And if I wanted to go and just buy a Yeti mic, or if I wanted to go and find this piece of gear that I'm looking for on a website or at a music store, that would have cost me money, which means it would have maybe taken me longer. I would have you do whatever you can to you keep adding on until eventually it's a big structure, right? So
and it's like I could go out and buy like $10,000 worth of gear, but am I really gonna get $10,000 worth of gigs?
Exactly. That's the other thing. You should never go and invest in yourself and invest in your gear and stuff, but don't go into debt for it. Like, don't, like, I know, I know a guy, I never want to say names on this show because like all of these people are wonderful people and I never want to call anybody out, but I know so many musicians in this town and they've all got like a slightly different approach or a slightly different philosophy. And there's one guy who, he was of the mindset, like, when I have impressive things, then clients will come to me. If I can show them that I have a really good room or really good equipment, I will get the phone calls, which I can understand the logic. And it's not like it doesn't, like, he still gets phone calls based on the fact that he has a studio he can offer this stuff to. And like he's got, like, when you go to his website, he's got a really good background behind him and he looks legit. But like, now he's got quotas every month. Like, now he's like jumped into a pool and he has to stay afloat. Like, he has to pay for this studio, has to pay for this gear. Not everybody has 10 grand to drop on a new mix console right away. And so if you've got that, and suddenly now, if you don't make 2,000 euros a month in clients, then like, what do you do? Like, now you're behind. Now you're playing catch up with yourself. Whereas you could use this smaller piece of equipment. It might limit you a bit more, but you'll be more creative. You'll learn all of the different things you can do with this limited equipment, and then when you get the bigger equipment, you're going to be better at it. You're going to be stronger at it, and you're going to have enough clients that you can afford to buy this equipment instead of right. Like you'll have your reputation, you'll have everything. I think it's a better way to do it step by step than really just jump in with a whole bunch of shit you don't know what the buttons do on it. So,
yeah, like I took my first like government check for COVID, and because I was getting more and more requests for drums at that point, and I didn't have any good overhead mics, and I couldn't get a stereo like drum
Like an
sound
image,
out of
yeah,
it
yeah.
because I just didn't have
Yeah.
enough. So I took that $1,000 or $2,000, I forget, and I bought like really high end, well, like mid tier overhead mics, and that was like probably one of my biggest expenses, but that paid off like instantly. Like I paid for those super quick.
Yeah.
So, and that's something I knew I needed. I was like, well, if I'm recording all these drums for people, my overheads are going to sound like trash, and that's kind of like, they're all like kind of like singer-songwriter, like folk things, and they're not really going to be using close mic sounds. So I know that that's going to be very important.
Mm-hmm.
And so that was the first investment, like really kind of like big investment that I did, and it was like worthwhile. Like,
No, it's really well said.
Like-
I agree entirely. Like you buy the thing you know you need, the thing that's going to pay itself off, and then from there you go. Because like I want so many cool things for this studio in this room.
Totally,
What I
yeah.
need falls in a totally different priority list.
Yeah.
And yeah,
exactly. Yeah.
So I think we have kind of come around to the end of it. Tom, I think it's time
Oh,
to
yeah.
give some homework to the fans and to the viewers and to ourselves, because we always we say this all the time. Like we're just two dudes with long hair that you've never met. So why, when we tell you how to be a better artist, why should you believe us? So we when we assign our homework, we do it as well. And we want to grow with our
Yeah.
audience, and we want everybody to do this together. It's a community.
Yeah.
So I think-
I feel like the theme of this podcast has really been communication. We keep coming back to it a lot. We keep talking about how you need to have the same sort of thing between the same sort of understanding when you're trying to work with another artist.
100%. Yeah, we've come back. Everything we've said has sort of fallen back into that realm and stuff. Also,
Yeah.
creativity and how to expand yourself with limited resources, and
Yeah.
how to get the
Yeah,
most
definitely.
out of the small things that you have. I had an idea. Justin, did you have an
Yeah.
idea for homework, or
Oh, you can go first. I got a couple.
you got a
ideas.
couple of? Oh, I love it. I love it
Awesome.
when
Yeah.
Yeah.
when the guests are proactive like this. My idea
Yeah.
was going to be to find find a piece of gear that you do own or have access to. Like maybe you can borrow a friend's guitar for a week or something. Like whatever you can really take access to, and see as many different uses that you can get out of it. Like if you have one microphone for your whole studio, find how it sounds on guitars, on basses, on pianos, on vocals. If you have only one guitar and no amplifier, how many different ways can you amplify that? Can you use it on your software and use a reamper there? Do you have pedals that maybe you can use? Is it acoustic? Can you just play it loud? Like my homework was basically going to be as creative with one piece of gear as you possibly can. But
I like that assignment.
I'd like it too, but
We can
with
have two
Justin-
assignments.
We can have
If
multiple
we have another
assignments.
good one.
Yeah,
And just to let you know, Justin, me and Mr. Moves Johnson will be doing the homework and taking it up on another episode. So
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
don't give us something too hard. Come on.
Okay.
Oh no, challenge me!
I
Come on,
was just
feed my
thinking,
brain,
like,
baby.
Yeah, all right. Just joking.
It depends on how practical this is,
Yeah.
but like take something that whatever art form that you like, take any part of it. So I don't know, for example, like if I'm doing drums, I'd be like teaching or find a way to explain how to play something or draw something or whatever it is in your art form, and try to explain it in as many ways as possible. It'd
That's
be
cool.
obviously best
like-
if you could do it with different people, but
But yeah, just
Like,
find
for
this.
example-
However many ways to describe the same thing.
yeah, exactly. So for example, like a lot of the times I have to describe how to like hold drumsticks, right? And I have to be able to describe that to a 5-year-old, a 14-year-old, a 25-year-old, and then I've had like 80-year-olds. So in every situation there, I have to describe it in a different way, because it's just like because of the age difference or how they learn, so on and so forth. It's just everyone's different and everyone learns differently. So I need to learn how to describe things differently and show things differently as well.
That is amazing homework, and I really like
Yeah.
that. And that is,
Yeah.
I think, exactly the type of thing that we're trying to to get our viewers and our audience to do. That's a really amazing piece of homework.
I think it's 2 assignments for both of the topics that we had, and I'm excited to try both of them.
Agreed. 2 for the price of 1. This is a really. I'm very happy to see. Curious to see where we get with this.
I'm already starting to get like ideas of like different gear that I've never used in certain ways. I'm like, hey, maybe if I do this and put this here, hey, it'll be cool to take this up in the end and see what I do.
100%. Yeah. But that said, I mean, we have come to the end of yet another episode of Artists Under Construction. So we'll be taking up the homework with our audience later, but unfortunately now we got to say goodbye.
Yeah, so let's just give one more shout out to Mr. Justin McHugh, and he has 2 bands that you need to go and check out. You need to go check out Astro Surf, and you need to check out Junestone. Do you want to tell our audience where the best place to go check stuff out for those bands is?
Yeah, sure. So Junestone, you can check out on like Instagram's probably your best space. Sorry, I'm just looking up to double check the Instagram handle right now. Pretty sure it's just Junestone.
Yeah, no worries.
Official.
Yeah, we want
Junestone Official, like no underscores
Oh,
or
one
hyphens
word?
or anything.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's it. Junestone Official.
Awesome.
Okay.
And
cool.
then for AstroSurf, there's a website and an Instagram, but
Nice.
I'd say Instagram's probably the best place as well. We've been doing over the past since we've all been at home, we've been doing like minute-long record at home little songs basically. So basically what it was I'd record like a drum pattern that's like a minute long, and then the guitar player and bass player would record parts on top of, but we wouldn't give any input to each other. We'd just let each other do anything.
Cool.
And then the guitar player would record his own part, then we'd all overdub, so we all get these crazy things. And yeah, we've been posting those and they sound pretty cool. And that's on Astro Surf Rock, which is our Instagram.
At Astro Surf Rock. Yeah, amazing. All right, well, you guys got to check out Justin and Astro Surf and Junestone. I can't recommend enough listening to this man's music. It is great. He is a brilliant drummer, just an all-around talented musician. I'm really, really happy that you were able to come on the show as well, Justin. Thank you very much for being here.
Yeah, thanks, guys. This is fun.
Anytime. Great, awesome. I mean, it's been a long time since I've seen you in the flesh, and it's a close second, but yeah, I'll make my way back over on your side of the ocean as soon as we're allowed to again.
Yeah, no, I definitely want to come over there too. It'd be a lot of fun.
For sure. Cool. Well, in that case, it is time to close yet another episode of Artists Under Construction. Just want to say thank you one more time to Justin McHugh. I have been Moves Johnson.
And I've been Neon Tom. Thank you very much for watching. Please like, subscribe, do all the things that help us out. We don't want your money. We just want your love.
That's, what he said. Bye, guys. See you next
Bye,
time.
guys.
1, 2, 1.